Not only are we going to tackle this awesome challenge, but we are going to give your players the option to sincerely care for a devil. And so the goal of today's encounter is not only to abide by the challenge, but to set up a situation where your players can end up not hating an NPC who flat out betrays them, and may just try to bring him back into the fold. And so hello, my name is Matt, and welcome to my hidden nerdy side, and today we're tackling the generals of the Nine Hells, Pit Fiends. We are going to take a look at their lore, info, and abilities, and then build an encounter you can steal, modify, and plop straight into your D&D games. And to make sure this video is a decent length, we'll only be pulling the lore, info, and abilities that exist within the monster manual, which can be found on pages 66, 67, 69, and 77. So without further ado, let's take a look at Pit Fiends. So being a devil and not a demon, Pit Fiends are lawful evil and fall into the infernal hierarchy within the Nine Hells. The hierarchy starts with archdevils at the top, then it goes to greater devils, lesser devils, and then Lemirs at the very bottom. Now that last part isn't too important, but I just think it's funny one devil is so garbage it gets its own tier. Basically, Pit Fiends don't answer to anybody other than the rulers of the Nine Hells, and tend to be leaders of devil armies. This is due to their unstoppable power, manipulative tactics, and unrelenting desire to win and conquer. But don't let their hulking, brute-like frame fool you, for there is an incredibly cunning intellect that lies within. Now, when we jump over to their actions and abilities, they certainly have some interesting mechanics to play with. Pit Fiends have your classic devil resistances and immunities, magic resistance, magic weapons, and 120 feet of true sight, making it difficult to try and pull a fast one on them. They can also cast a selection of good spells like Fireball and Hold Monster, but at high levels of play, those spells aren't too devastating. However, they do have two standout combat abilities. The first is a Fear Aura, which is a 20-foot aura that frightens anyone who starts their turn inside of it, and it has quite a high DC at 21, which is particularly high when you take into consideration that most characters who are getting that close are barbarians, fighters, rogues, and so on, which aren't classes known for having high wisdom saving throws. Now the second is their Bite. One of their 4 attacks per turn is a Bite. This bite not only poisons its target and deals quite a bit of damage, but the target can't regain hit points while under its effects, so you can totally create some tense moments with its bite. For example, if you down a player with your bite, well, now they have to roll death saving throws. Now, if you feel like your Pit Fiend is a bit underwhelming, which at high levels of play it certainly can be, an easy way to make it much more powerful and terrifying is to give it legendary resistances, legendary actions like you see on screen, and also allow it to cast one of its spells along with its multi-attack. Now you have a truly terrifying devil general who is bashing bones, preventing healing, frightening your party, and setting your backline on fire every round. Now that's an actual high-tier threat. And finally, whether you choose to give your Pit Fiend buffs or not, we are going to give our Pit Fiend plane shift he can use twice a day, and you'll see why later. Okay, so now that we've gone over the basic Pit Fiend lore, info, and abilities, let's build an encounter. This encounter/quest will be aimed at parties level 15 to 20 for the final battle, but we will be introducing this Pit Fiend as early as levels 5 to 8, and this series of encounters will last over the course of your entire campaign. The party's motivation should always be tailored to your campaign, but for simplicity's sake, we'll just say 1. Your players probably won't want to die when they first see a Pit Fiend, and will do whatever he says purely to survive, but then will be further motivated because engaging with this creature will further aid in their main quest. So there are only 2 prerequisites you need to run this series of encounters. You need an evil entity that isn't your BBEG who also exists somewhere in your world, and you need a village, town, city, or some area your big bad wants to destroy for whatever reason. For this video, I'm going to say the evil entity is an archdevil and the area under attack is a town called Banehill, but you can easily make your Pit Fiend serve any powerful entity you have, and the area under under attack whatever makes sense in your world. So for this example, we'll say Banehill is under attack, and the reason it's under attack is because your campaign's big bad found out the town has been helping your party. When your party arrives on scene, it will be utter chaos, and many of your big bad's minions will be completely destroying the town. Now when it comes to big battlefield sort of encounters, I like to set up a ton of mini objectives that end up leading to an overall win. This way your players get a sense of accomplishment as the encounter goes. So we'll say the guard barracks, market square, sewer gate, and town's holy temple will be the mini objectives, and once all those areas are taken back, the battle will be won. And after taking each area, an additional benefit will be gained. So we'll say when the guard barracks are taken back, the pinned down guards will be freed to aid your party in other ways. When the market square is taken back, there will be potion stalls with potions that your players can use to buff themselves up. When the sewer gate is taken back, the civilians will have a safe way to escape the town and more lives will be saved. And when the holy temple is taken back, the clerics there can heal your party, which also allows you to toss a bunch of baddies at them. Of course, your players won't know this at the beginning, but will gain these benefits as they go along. Now, the big bad's army will be an overwhelming force, and your players will have their hands full when they arrive at just one of the areas. So much so, it will look like there's nothing they can do. But it's okay to toss a lot at your players and beat them down until it looks like all hope is lost, because at that moment, erupting from the ground, a massive, terrifying pit fiend will burst forth. Now, being level 5 to 8 at the time, if your players know what a pit fiend is, they'll probably shit themselves. And even if they don't, while they're in their weakened state, a hulking devil is the last thing you want to see. However, the mood will begin to shift once this pit fiend starts attacking your big bad's minions. So this pit fiend, who we'll call a cool devil name like Mordrax, serves an archdevil who your campaign's big bad made a deal with, but then reneged on. So now this archdevil has commanded Mordrax to figure out a way to foil the big bad's plans out of pure spite. What the deal was, I'll leave up to you, but Mordrax will think his assignment is beneath him. Now, after killing a few of your enemies, Mordrax will turn to your party and ask if they're with the big bad or against him. If they try to lie and say they're with him, well, Mordrax will attack him. But once Mordrax finds out your players are also against the big bad, a relationship based on the enemy of my enemy is my friend will start to form. But after your quick introduction, your party will now have a pit fiend ally they can use to actually stand a chance against the relentless onslaught. You can also have him bring along some lesser devils like bearded devils, imps, or lemirs if you wish. So now the encounter will continue as normal, and your players can either fight alongside Mordrax, maybe even have a player fly on his back or something, or you can have him and his forces tackle certain parts of town while your party gets the others. But the interesting part is what happens afterwards. Because yeah, Mordrax is still an evil devil. However, Mordrax will not be interested in killing your party or the townspeople, since they clearly oppose your campaign's big bad, and the big bad pissed off Mordrax's master. So instead, a weird alliance will be formed, as Mordrax will now become a convenient way to feed your party intel on your big bad whenever you need to, as he gathers it from his spies or the lips of his master. And Mordrax will give him a sending stone so he can contact them, find out where they are, and plane shift over to discuss details about your big bad. Now, he'll make it clear he is only feeding your party intel because the big bad is now his master's enemy, and he will not be joining your party by any means. He will only be feeding your players intel so he can use your party to foil the big bad's plans so he doesn't have to. Well, at least in the beginning. Now, if you did nothing else with Mordrax, he would still be a satisfying character and tool your players and yourself could use. But we want to set up an option for the players to feel truly betrayed. So as your players continue in their campaign and speak with Mordrax multiple times, your players will have many opportunities to chip away at his rough exterior and actually form a bond with him. He will be cold and calculated at first, but the more your players talk to him, the friendlier he will get. But in order for that to happen, we need to humanize our pit fiend. So, how do we do that? Well, one way is to give him a family. Everyone can relate to the importance of family, and Mordrak slipping in stories about his son, daughter, wife, or whatever when appropriate immediately opens up a path for connection. Another way is to give him something he hates that is rather meaningless and ordinary. People tend to bond over their shared hatred for things quite easily. It could be he hates cats, dwarves, small talk, or spicy food. It doesn't matter. Just give him a few small inconveniences to hate, and make sure they don't directly go against what your players love. Because when he starts spouting lines like, "I just don't get cats. They never listen to my commands and just lick their own ass," your players will surely get a kick out of it. Another way to humanize him is to do the opposite and give him a few mundane things to love. All the things we just said he could hate, he could also have a brimming passion for.
I don't know. They're short and stocky, but also really hairy. I don't know why, but dwarves are just cute, I guess. Shut up, whatever.
Lines like this will immediately bring your pit fiend down to earth, and unlike with the things he hates, having likes that align with your party's likes makes the connection that much simpler. And finally, you can give him a personality quirk he sticks to at first, but your players can slowly work out as time goes on. For example, what if he was prim, proper, and totally formal with how he conducts himself, but as he spends time with your party, they can teach him how to loosen up. These are just a few ways you can go, and remember, none of these ways necessarily make him a good person, but they will humanize him and allow your players to form a bond, which is the most important part. And trust me, that's all it really takes for most players. I mean, the meme about players adopting an NPC exists for a reason, but if you really want to make sure their friendship is ironclad, maybe Mordrax could save your players from a sticky situation further down the road, further cementing their bond. So this relationship will blossom over the course of your campaign, and the end result will either be they form a good friendship with Mordrax or keep it purely professional. But as your campaign nears its end, your big bad will get desperate and make another deal with the archdevil he betrayed earlier, and unfortunately, that means Mordrax will turn from ally to enemy. However, your players won't know this yet, so being the cunning devil he is, he will try to arrange another meeting with your players in a select location, a location where Mordrax and his devil followers will be waiting to ambush and kill your party. And then it will be revealed your big bad just got a powerful new ally. Now, if your players kept their relationship professional, Mordrax will genuinely try to kill your players at his master's command. But if your players do end up befriending this pit fiend, he will still try to kill your players, but he will clearly look devastated and begrudgingly doing so. Then during the inevitable combat banter, Mordrax will mention he is bound to his master by a contract written in blood, and make it clear he is only doing this because he has to, or else him and his family, if you gave him one, will be eradicated. And so now it's your player's call. Do they kill Mordrax or try to convince him to stand down? Have your players even done enough to turn this naturally evil devil into a creature with a capacity to change? I would make it a difficult series of checks, because he has been a loyal pit fiend for so long, but maybe, just maybe, it is possible for him to change. Now, if your players are able to turn their foe back to friend, they can now fight alongside him once again to kill the remaining archdevil followers he brought with him. We'll say he brought along 2 to 3 Black Abishai, 3 to 6 Maragons, and tack on a Chain Devil and Narzagon for really powerful parties. You can find these stat blocks in the Monster Manual on page 72, and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes on pages 160, 166, and 167. But of course, if your players do convince him to stand down, there's still one major problem. Mordrax is still bound to his archdevil, bound by a contract written in blood, by an oath he can't fully break, and will suffer grave consequences for doing so. So in order for Mordrax to officially join your party's side, your players have to figure out a way to free Mordrax from his contract. So, what would the Archdevil want in return? Well, I'll leave it up to you. But then there's also the really depressing middle ground option, where Mordrax helps kill the devil followers he brought, but then not convinced he can get out of his contract while also not wanting to hurt his friends. Mordrax may just finish the job himself and take his own life. So, a badass introduction to a complex character who your players can end up killing or befriending based on decisions they make all campaign long? I think this is all quite spicy enough, but if we wanted to, how can we make it even spicier? Well, to really personalize Mordrax, consider giving him a couple of homebrew abilities that align with the devil lore or powerful entity he serves. If he serves Glacia, you can give him invisibility. If he serves Mammon, you can give him glyphs of warding. If he serves Fierna, he could have hypnotic pattern, and so on. You could also have Mordrax be so powerful that he's able to grant powers to those who serve him, potentially opening up a player for a warlock multiclass, or you can create some side quests to receive smaller boons. And finally, give him some wild magic items he can use during their final fight. If your players kill him, they can get some powerful goodies near the end of their campaign, which they'll love, and if they're overpowered, well, you won't have to deal with it too long. But, of course, this is just one of many ways you can use Pit Fiends in your Dungeons & Dragons campaign. But if you do use this in your future games, make sure to let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching and indulging my hidden nerdy side.